light. It's the podcast that feels just right. It's the Imagine More podcast.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Imagine More podcast. I'm your host, Rose Young, educator, entrepreneur, lover of community stories, and someone who believes some of the most powerful revolutions happen quietly. Today's episode is about flour on aprons, hand-stitched hymns, anonymous courage, and a movement that began in the 1830s, long before women could vote, own property freely, or even legally keep the money they earned. We're talking about the Sandhills Women's Exchange. And ladies, I am so honored to have you here. Susan, would you like to introduce yourself to our guest?
Yes, my name is Susan Taylor-Schran. I am a volunteer and a member of the Sandhills Women's Exchange.
Let's begin at the very beginning. Many people don't realize that under coverture laws in the 1800s, women were legally covered under their husbands or male relatives. I don't really understand that. Can you explain what coverture meant and how it limited women?
Yes, coverture laws were part of English common laws that came to this country with the British. What it meant is, like you said, under coverture laws, women did not have a legal identity. They were covered under their husband's identity, and or if they were not married, they were subsumed under their male relative.
Okay.
And this means, with not having a legal identity, they could not own property, they could not keep money, they were not in charge of their bodies, and they could not make decisions concerning their children. And those laws came to this country even with the development of the Constitution. Abigail Adams' famous letter to her husband John at the Continental Congress in 1776, when she said, "Remember the women," most take that to mean about voting, but what she was talking about was coverture laws.
Really?
And those laws stayed on the books until individual state legislatures began to pass laws, but they were not really eliminated till the 1930s.
Oh, my goodness.
And some vestiges still remain today.
How did the women's exchange movement begin in the 1830s in response to this?
The condition of women, the situation of women, especially women that were widowed, they were near destitution many times. Especially if they were widowed with children, they had no means to really make money. You know, we can get confused about what we see on television or in costume dramas. You know, life was really hard. And so why the Women's Exchange came about, the first one, was a way for women to earn money. So they could support themselves and have a bit of independence. And the first one was in 1832. It was the Philadelphia Ladies Depository. It was started by a woman named Elizabeth Stout. And in response to this need, so about 200 of her more influential and wealthy friends started the exchange. Okay. And it was a place where women could bring their handcrafts, their baked goods, their food goods, and sell them and get money.
I see. So what happened was, did they get to keep that money then? Was it their money after they used that, or how did it work?
Yes, they got to keep their money. It was originally set up for what Elizabeth Stout called decayed gentlewomen. These were women that were divorced, that were widowed, but still of the genteel class. Okay. And they didn't work. They would not go and be barmaids or work in a feed store. So they needed a way to make money. And this was a way they could bring it and sell it anonymously. And the depository sold it for them and gave them their money.
Oh, I love that this wasn't charity in the traditional sense.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
The mission of this has always been to help others help themselves.
Right. And you keep your dignity, use your skill. It's entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
It really is. So after epidemics and the Civil War left more than 250,000 widows, how critical were these exchanges?
They were very critical. The ladies' depository movement didn't really catch on, but then a few of them became what was known as exchange for women's work.
Okay.
And those exchanges after the 1850s really caught on. And by the end of the 1800s, there were over 100 exchanges across the country.
Wow, what made this movement so sustainable?
One is it was more than just selling goods. They were places they educated women on basic education, on skills. They were culinary schools. They provided food for them, lodging for them, medical care and child care, things that women needed.
Right.
So they could make a life for themselves. And so many times these exchanges were started by the wealthy elite women in their community, most of them in urban environments. So they were abolitionists. They were early suffragettes. They were forward-thinking women that were trying to empower women.
Mm-hmm.
And these exchanges, well, we have 5 remaining from the 1800s that are still operating today. Many of them, some of them, kept merging into other organizations and still exist. One of the most successful and influential ones was the Boston Women's Educational and Industrial Union.
I see.
One of the stories is in 1925, Amelia Earhart moved from the West Coast to the East Coast and settled around Boston. And she went to the Women's Educational and Industrial Union looking for work because they acted as an employment agency.
Uh-huh.
They sent her to Denison House, which was a settlement house in Boston. And there she worked with immigrants and low-income people, teaching them English and whatnot. Yes. And she left Denison House in 1928 to fly solo across the Atlantic, being the first woman to do that. And when she got back, she went back to work at Denison House.
Did she? That's really cool.
Yes.
That's a cool story.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move to the Sandhills. In the 1920s, many rural families were here, subsistent farmers, living
Yes.
very close to poverty. But at the same time, Pinehurst was expanding as a resort community. Tell us about the 3 women from the Northeast who understood the women's exchange model and helped establish one here in 1922.
Okay. Well, let me go back just a little bit.
Okay.
When James Tufts came and began to establish the resort, and then by 1897 it was up and going, there were 3 groups of people. There were the winter residents, were the ones that came for the season and stayed at the resort.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, they were the wealthy 1% of the country. These were really, really wealthy people. The other was the local residents. The business community at that time was centered in Aberdeen.
Oh.
Right. Yes, that was the real business community.
Uh-huh.
And the third was a group that was referred to as the Harvard Colony.
Okay.
And this was something that came about in the early 1900s. It was a return to the farm agrarian movement that came out of Harvard and Yale. These young elite businessmen thought that they could bring these new agrarian techniques, farming techniques to the Sandhills and make a venture. And they did. And they bought thousands of acres of land.
No kidding.
And most of the time they were raising peaches and cotton. Now, in addition to these 3 groups, there was the rural poor. And they were subsistence farmers. Everything depended on the tobacco crop, the cotton crop. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And the statistics go something like in 1920, there were 2.5 million people in North Carolina. 75% of them were rural. Most were, health conditions were poor. Poverty was common.
Yeah.
Most children left school in the high school years to work the farms. Even in 1935, only 35% of the population had electricity.
Really? That's hard to fathom, isn't it?
You really have to step back. And so the area, the Sandhills, was extremely rural. There weren't paved roads. There were no way. Women did not leave their farms or small community. Rarely did they come to town. So, two of the women that started the exchange, Catherine Tuckerman and Molly Lovering, they were part of this new agrarian movement, and they lived among the rural farmers and could see firsthand their situations and their need. And they were just very overcome by the need in the area. Well, they were both familiar with the women's exchange movements. Catherine from the Boston area, and nothing's been written or anything, but I just believe she knew about the Boston Women's Educational and Industrial Union.
Okay.
So was Molly Lovering. And so when the 1922 Sandhills Board of Trade County Fair was at the fair barn.
Okay.
And Catherine saw what these local women made. She thought, this is as good as anything I've seen in the other women's exchanges in Boston, in New York, in Philadelphia, or wherever. So she got with Molly Lovering, and the third was Dorothea Cowgill.
Okay. And
they, in May of 1922, decided they were going to start a women's exchange.
Yes.
That's how it all got started.
Oh, my goodness.
And then within a few months, they had pulled together women from the winter residents, local residents, and they worked with the home demonstration agent. And by the time they opened in the fall of 1923, they had over 120 consigners.
Wow.
And they started here in Southern Pines. They started on the porch of Judge Ray's tea room, which was over in Knollwood on Crest Drive. And their first season there, they were so successful. They sold in one season, which went from September to April, what would be about, let me think, I think it's about $40,000 they did. That's incredible. In 1923.
That's insane, is what it is. That really is remarkable. And the Sandhills Women's Exchange, it opened in 1922, and it has never closed its doors?
No, it's never closed.
Wow.
They were a lifeline during the Depression for the rural families. They kept going because that wealthy elite kept coming.
Is that what why it hasn't endured, you think, for 100 years?
Yes, I think it's that, but it's changed over the years, of course. Most of the women's exchanges have changed over the years because women went to work.
Right.
By the end of World War II, women were going to work, and then by the 1960s, we were going to work. So that need had lessened. And also, there's the whole story of the textile industry in the United States that plays into this.
Okay, tell us.
Prior to the Industrial Revolution, families were a self-sufficient unit. They grew their own crops, and they grew what they needed to make clothing. Clothing was very scarce. They raised sheep and they grew flax, and they processed it, wove it, made it into garments. And that unit was broken with the Industrial Revolution because young women and young men began to go to the mills.
Okay.
So that family structure, that self-sufficient unit began to fall apart. But also with that is the understanding that prior to the Industrial Revolution and during the time of coverture laws, cloth, textiles were considered the territory of women. That was their wealth.
Okay.
Because cloth was so scarce, and they were the ones making it. They were the ones that usually spun it, wove it, and made it into whatever they needed. And it passed down through the female line of the family. And that's why you see these old textiles that always have initials or monograms or something.
Yes.
That was their signature. They owned that.
Oh.
And so the phrase, only the clothes on her back, that is true. Women only owned the clothes on their back.
Wow.
So you put that, and then the Industrial Revolution came, and so that whole structure began to break down. And by the time of mass-produced garments and cloth,
Yes.
the idea of handmade began to lose its luster, shall we say.
Yes.
So, as the culture changed, so did the women's exchanges.
That's so interesting. The mission has always been helping others to help themselves. What does that look like in practical terms?
Well, it would be, I can give you some really nice stories from one of our favorites is there was a woman in the 1930s that sold boiled peanuts.
Boiled peanuts. Okay.
She sent her son to college selling boiled peanuts through the Sandhills Women's Exchange.
Oh, my goodness.
We don't get them as frequently now, or as I should say as often, but since I've been involved, and that's been about 8 years, there was an elderly man came in and said, my mother sold things here, and that put food on our table.
I love that.
So, and one of the interesting ones is the Treasurer's Report from 1932, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
Mrs. Philbrook sold 399 pounds of fudge.
That must have been some delicious fudge.
Now, you have to remember, the Women's Exchange sits right in the midst of the Pinehurst Resort.
Yeah.
And so those visitors were buying that fudge. But anyway, those people, they earn money. One of my favorite quotes is from Dorothea Cowgill, who I mentioned was one of the founders. And she wrote this in 1928. And let me just jump back one thing interesting. Dorothea Cowgill was the daughter of C.T. and Fay Crocker. Okay. The Crockers owned Pine Wild Farm, where the Pine Wildest development is. And at a time, they had 125,000 peach trees on their property.
Really?
Okay.
125,000. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so this is Dorothea, their daughter. And Dorothea was the energy of the three, I believe. She had a car, and she was the one that would drive all over the countryside, visiting the ladies and taking them supplies, taking them their money. And she said that 3 of them became her lifelong friends.
Really?
Yeah. So Dorothea writes this. The same spirit of friendly interest does prevail, however, and last year the amount of money taken in and sent out to the countrywomen was greater than ever before. I imagine living 17 miles from the tiniest town, caring for 2 cows, 4 to 8 children, and all the yearly budget depending on whether the tobacco and cotton crops were good or bad, and suddenly finding that by spending a few hours a week hooking rugs out of threadbare garments or knitting cotton gloves for the more fortunate who hunted to hounds, they could have from $500 to $200 a month to spend on luxuries. It would be hard for us to really conceive the joy it brings. When we send a check for $300 to one woman for articles sold in 1 month, you can imagine the joy and a feeling of satisfaction to those of us in touch with this enterprise. So if you can imagine getting a check for $300 in 1928, and you're living on a tiny little farm, that's what it did.
Oh, that makes me tear up thinking about that.
That's
amazing.
That's how they helped people.
Wow. Yeah.
And so now we do sell North Carolina made products,
Okay.
crafts, as much as we can, as many as we can find.
Okay.
And, we have our cafe that's very popular.
I hear that it's delicious. Sandy keeps telling me, okay, you got to come to lunch. You got to come to lunch.
Absolutely. And so from that, from some of the profits of that, we can still give back to the community.
Yeah. If you're listening and thinking, why have I never heard this before? You're not alone. Take a moment right now to share this episode with someone who loves history. Susan, you know a lot. I mean, she's not reading that. She's not getting that from anywhere. That's coming all from her head. Now let's take a quick pause. This would be a great time to share this podcast with someone you know. Help us spread the inspiration. And while you do that, here's a word from one of our wonderful nonprofits in Moore County. Hey there, it's Rose with a quick shout out to my favorite crew, the Kiwanis Club of the Sandhills. We're out in the community making a difference, reading in schools, funding scholarships, supporting youth programs, and even building playgrounds for kids with special needs. Want to be part of something good? Join us for lunch most every Wednesday at Table on the Green. Lunch is served at 11:45 and we're out by 1 o'clock. Come for the food, stay for the friendship, and help us change the world, one child and one community at a time. Susan, let's talk about you. You and your husband moved here almost 10 years ago from Fredericksburg, Virginia. I moved from Germany to Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Did you?
I was working in the military, and then I moved to Fredericksburg. We lived, and I can't think of where it was. Someone asked me that. I worked on Dahlgren Navy Base.
Yes.
And then my husband worked up in Quantico.
Yes.
So Fredericksburg was right in the middle. We love Fredericksburg. It was really nice. Your background is steeped in the arts. Gallery ownership, that's really cool. Museum shop management, photography, documenting fine art. How did your experience in the arts prepare you for your work with the exchange?
Oh, I don't know. Well, when I first volunteered, I worked at the front desk.
Okay.
Greeting people and writing up sales because I had really done that a lot. I mean, I'd been on frontline customer service, rating on customers. And after a while, I thought, I'm tired of being nice to people.
Oh, really?
I've had it with this, but I started doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I do marketing and graphic design for them and volunteer work that way. And into the next year, I will be going into the artisan chair, working to bring artisans into the shop.
There you go. And that's when it will come in handy. Okay.
Yes.
So what drew you personally to the exchange?
It's a women's empowerment organization, and that's what I'm going to do. I also am involved with the Pinehurst Rotary, but the exchange just spoke to me. And those of us that are involved in it, it is really dear to us. There is a fulfillment we get there working, volunteering among ourselves with the people that come in. I've been doing some demographic studies and marketing and trying to understand who it is that come there. And many times people just come for comfort.
Really?
Yeah. Now, we haven't talked about the building itself.
Okay, let's talk about the building.
Because that's the whole history. When the exchange started over here in Knollwood in 1923, they realized real quick that that was too small, this one little room. So they went looking, and they put Gertrude Tufts in charge of that. Now, Gertrude was James Tufts' daughter-in-law and married to Leonard. And Leonard owned the resort at that time. And I like to believe that Gertrude, who was a real doer herself, because she started the Farm Life School.
Oh, she did. Okay.
That Gertrude said, Leonard, give us that building. We need some place to work.
Yeah.
But anyway, the cabin was built over in near Aberdeen by James Ray Jr. And he, in 1823, he was an early resident of Moore County, and he built this little cabin, this little log cabin, as a winter residence. And he lived there until his death, and then Archibald Mackenzie bought it. You know, the Mackenzie family is very, very well established here in Moore County. And so in 1873, the Mackenzies moved to the property, and they used it as a kitchen. The story goes that when James Tufts came to look around, he saw the cabin and was so charmed by it that the Mackenzies gave it to him. He built them a new kitchen in return. So he had it disassembled. It was a numbered, all the logs numbered.
Really?
And B.F. Taylor, who was the architect of the resort, had it reassembled on a plot of land in the village of Pinehurst. And at the time, it was called the Pine Grove. It was nothing but longleaf pines. And then soon there were deer in the deer park, and they let the kids pet the deers.
Yeah.
But anyway, but by the 20s, it was this little cabin was unoccupied. So Leonard Tufts let the Women's Exchange in after he did some repairs, which I'm sure Gertrude told him to do. I gotta believe.
Sure too.
Let's hear it for Gertrude. And so that first season, they moved in there. And that first season, they were in this little tiny cabin. You have to see it. So they made like the equivalent of $120,000 in today's term in like a 5-month. And so even when they moved in, they knew they needed more room.
Right.
And every summer, while the exchange was closed, they added on. So there are 5 additions.
Okay.
And so we have been in that building since 1924.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. And in 1982, I think that's what it is, the Diamond Head Corporation gave us the gift of deed. Up until that time, we just were there rent-free. But at that time, then Diamond Head gave us the deed, and we own it now. And all the problems that go along with a 200-year-old cabin.
Oh, my goodness, which I'm sure are extensive.
Yes. This past summer, Tropical Storm Chantal hit us very hard.
Did you flood?
Very much so.
Oh, no.
On the east side of the cabin, there was 3 feet of water in the yard surrounding it. On the west side, it was 18 inches. There was 6 inches through the cabin. And fortunately, the cabin has a lot of holes, so it drained away quickly. But it had done its damage by that time. So over the summer, we had to have the floors refinished. And those floors were over 100 years old, and some of the floors had to be totally replaced. We lost a lot of our kitchen appliances and had to have those replaced. But we were back up and going by September. And that was a lot of work done to get it back up. But it was the most destruction the cabin has ever had.
Wow. Just recently, too. After all of these years.
Yes.
No, Chantal, hit us hard.
Hit us all very, very hard. It was unexpected.
What even a hurricane, and she got us.
I know. So anyway, the cabin has its own unique feel. And if you've never been in, it is the same way it's always been.
Really?
It's not modern. I mean, we've got modern, electricity and stuff. But you look and it's an old log cabin, and you can see how all the additions were made to it. They just added to the outside wall and kept on building.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very cozy feel to it. And
does it give you an idea of how they lived in the cabin?
The actual cabin, is so small. It's hard, I don't.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, they had a little bed, a chair, a table, and that's about it.
That's it. So, Susan, you recently wrote a book on the history of the Women's Exchange Movement, the Federation, and the remaining 14 exchanges. What inspired you to write Helping Others?
Well, It's just when I got researching the Sandhills Women's Exchange, and I worked with another volunteer from the exchange, Sandy Gernhardt, and she and I for years have just been getting researching and going down rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah.
Of this.
She's a historian for sure.
Sure.
I mean, she could tell me anything I ask her. She
She
could
knows.
tell me the history on it.
Yeah. Sandy is so good, but she's very practical. She's like, she can always find the correct dates and the correct names and and I'm always over here going, why? I'm over here.
Let's make a good team then.
So one of our former presidents, and that's a whole story in herself, Cav Peterson, asked me if I would do a little book about the exchange, the Federation of Women's Exchanges. She thought maybe we could do a little cookbook.
Yeah.
And I started researching the exchanges, and I said to Cav, there's a whole nother story here. There's so much more to talk about. These women, these exchanges are just incredible. What they do now, and to think that there were, over 100 of them at one time. So what I did in the book is it's just a brief little history of the women's exchange movement and how the exchanges came about. Then we talk about the 14 different exchanges, just a little bit about them.
Yes.
Then I have some little stories in it. Then we have a listing of all the exchanges.
Okay.
And I'm always finding more ever so often. Another one, I'll find another one. And the notable women that were founders of the exchanges. And it's just a short history of everything to kind of pique your interest into these things.
Absolutely. So what surprised you during your research?
Just how involved these women were.
Yeah.
An example, the New York Exchange for Women's Work was one of the prime exchanges in the country, and it became a model like the Boston Women's Union of how to run these things. And these women what the story is, they got Thomas Edison to do an exhibition for them. When he came from the Paris World Fair, I think it was in 1898, they had him reassemble his display from that fair in New York as a fundraiser for their exchange. And Rudolph Aronson wrote a song, a march just for them. But these women, they were not playing around. No. They were serious business women. And that's the thing. This exchange movement has been going on all these years, just quietly doing what it is they do, helping others with no real fanfare. Women's exchanges are the oldest continuous nonprofit charitable organization in this country.
I had no idea.
No one does.
I had no idea.
And I think part of it, too, is the suffrage movement and the right to vote. It was so dramatic. It overshadowed it. But I must say, today is my mother's birthday, March 3rd. She was born March 3rd, 1913. On that day, the first large civil rights march was held in Washington, D.C., and it was the women's right to vote. It was a huge suffragette march, and they had it the day before Woodrow Wilson was inaugurated. Yeah. So it's part of that.
Oh, well, that's quite a history. That's pretty cool. What do you want your readers to walk away understanding about this movement?
As they say, history is written by the winners, And like I say, women have just been doing all along. They do what they just do what needs to be done with not a lot of fanfare.
It's true.
And it still goes on. And they deserve that credit. Thousands of women have worked through the exchanges and given back to their community, done what needed to be done.
Yes.
And as I say in the book, I hope if you see this, look around at your community. There's probably an exchange has been nearby, and your mother, grandmother, great aunt, great grandmother was involved in the movement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love the idea that, you think of women subservient back then. And I love the idea that we have always been strong and we've always been pushing forward.
Always,
Mhm.
from earliest times. I mean, you think of, I got to thinking about this when I was doing it, thinking about when men would go off to war, say in the Revolution or the Civil War, and women were left at home.
Right.
Not only did they have to do their normal women's work, cooking, cleaning, growing the vegetables, taking care of the kids, educating them. With the husband gone, they had to take care of the farm animals. They had to do repairs. They had to do all that he had done
Right.
while he was gone in the hopes that he would come back.
Yes.
So if he didn't come back, what were they going to do?
Yeah.
How could they keep this? And that kind of thing gave me pause, real pause on what women did.
Yes. So let's bring this into 2026. And for someone who has never visited the Sandhill Women's Exchange, take us through. We're walking in the door. Tell us what we're going to see, how we enjoy it. Can we eat lunch? What time? When you're open? Give us all the details.
Okay. The Sandhills Women's Exchange is located at 15 Azalea Road in the village of Pinehurst. That's directly across from the village chapel, right off of Route 2.
Okay.
The first thing you see, is these log buildings.
Yeah.
And the first thing you walk into is the cabin, the 1823 cabin.
Yes.
This little room. On the right side is a huge fireplace that takes up the whole sidewall. That's the west side of the building.
Uh-huh.
On the east side of the building, on the left, we have a display case with some artifacts and all from the Women's Exchange.
Uh-huh.
And then there are some information boards up where you can read about the history of the exchange.
Right.
Right now, I have a display of books written by other exchanges.
Okay.
And then you duck your head and you go through a tiny hall. Got to duck your head a lot at the exchange. You duck your head, you come into the shop area.
Uh-huh.
And the ceilings are very high, but it's all open. There's just logs and wood and you can see all of the logs. And that front area is quite large, and that's the shop.
Okay.
Duck your head again. You go duck your head again, and you come into the cafe. And the cafe is it's like one of your grandmother's, It's just...
How many tables?
We have 12 tables.
12 tables.
We can only seat, I think 36 is the most we can sit.
Okay.
And volunteers are the waitresses.
All right.
So you never know who's going to be your waitress, but they're all just wonderful. We have 2 paid employees.
Uh-huh.
One is our manager, Rhea Kinney.
Yes.
Who does a marvelous job. She keeps us all together. And Katrina Taylor, who is our chef. And Katrina just is wonderful.
Really?
We just, we are so indebted to Katrina. She makes everything's handmade, fresh that day.
Okay.
And it's just simple food. It's fine food. She makes the best BLT in town because it's just the BLTs. It's just a BLT. So we're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 3.
Okay.
We serve lunch 11 to 2.
11 to 2. Okay. So what kinds of things are on the menu besides the BLT? Which already sold me, by the way.
Let's see. Another is her quiches. Those are her specialties. Okay. And she does a bacon, spinach, and tomato quiche.
Oh.
One of her favorites, the diner's favorite, she does around the holidays, which is her Thanksgiving quiche.
Uh-huh.
That's really good.
Oh.
So there's the quiches. Then she does like Reubens and Rachel's.
I'm hungry right now, Susan.
Yeah, she does like a couple of turkey wraps and some salads. And the menu's not real. Oh, I almost forgot. Excuse me. Hummingbird cake.
Hummingbird cake. What is that?
Hummingbird cake is similar to carrot cake, but with a lot more in it. It's
Really?
so good, and it's made fresh almost every day.
Oh my goodness.
And
Sounds fabulous.
And then whatever is in season,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's a peaches, sometimes she'll do a lemon meringue or something like that.
Now, do we have to make a reservation?
Only if you're going to come with a group of 6 or more, just
Okay.
because it's so small.
Right. Okay. So how does the exchange continue its original mission in modern times?
By trying to give back to help others. We do, like I say, from the profits, any profits we make. Now, part of our profits are going towards maintaining a 200-year-old structure.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
That's but we do give back to the community. We do different groups, and we look for small organizations that are very, very locally driven.
Okay.
The larger needs are taken by the bigger organizations.
Yes.
So that's how they do. But we do small things like Katrina makes quiches that she donates to the Claire McLean House.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about, you said that you try and get, is it Moore County handmade crafts in there, or is it all of North Carolina, or what kinds of things can we buy?
We try whatever. We try to, we try to get, first we start with Moore County, we look, and then we go further afield, just trying. We have a few artists from Chapel Hill that have come in, but most of them are Moore County.
Really?
We do, let me think, we do pottery
Uh-huh.
and ceramics. We have textiles and baby clothes. We sell a lot of North Carolina food products.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
That's it. Then, let me see. We have pine needle baskets and sweetgrass baskets that are, oh yeah.
That's intriguing.
Yes. There's a woman here that is just a real expert in pine needle baskets.
Wow.
Mhm.
So if we're having a guest over and we want to give them a little taste of North Carolina, Moore County, we can head over to the exchange.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Or we're going to visit. I know I like to take a little bit from my hometown when I go visit in other places.
Yeah, I was visiting a nephew and his wife up in upper state New York this fall, and I took a bag of North Carolina rice.
Really? Rice?
Right.
Uh-huh.
It's grown on the eastern part of the state, but then we have even grits, the North Carolina grits.
Yes. All right, so I have a quick fire round where I'm just going to throw something out at you, and you don't think about it too much. Short answers. Just throw out what's first thing in your head. Handmade or heirloom?
Handmade or heirloom? They can be both, can't they?
They can. They
can.
can be both.
I have seen, and I have done, because I work in textiles, that you take vintage textiles, maybe old hankies or crocheted edgings or whatever, old damask tablecloths, and turn them into other things.
Really neat.
One of our artisans takes old chenille bedspreads and makes them into bathrobes.
Oh my goodness.
They are so cuddly. They are wonderful. Okay. I can never give a short answer. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just thinking I have a really good friend that is very creative, a retired arts teacher, and I thought she should volunteer. So it made me think, how do you get volunteers, and can anyone volunteer?
Anyone can volunteer.
And how do they do that? Do they just show up?
Just show up and talk to who is ever there. I mean, they would talk to Rhea. We have a little form just to get your interest, to know where you want to be. Like I say, all the waitresses are volunteers. The front desk staff is volunteers. The people that take care of the gardens are volunteers. We need people to help us with social media. There's always something to do. There's always a fundraiser we're working on or whatnot.
All right. Well, I'm glad I thought of that. Scones or pound cake?
Oh, pound cake.
Yeah. No, that is so hard to make pound cake.
Oh,
it is labor intensive.
but it's good.
Do you
when
make it?
I have my mother's recipe. My grandma's
Did.
for what they call a half-pound cake. And yeah, use it a lot.
If the Exchange had a theme song, what genre would it be?
It would be a jazz
A
tune.
jazz
Because it's from the
tune.
20s. You can't do
Yeah,
jazz
roaring
tune.
20s. A woman in history you'd invite to tea.
Oh, Barbara Jordan.
Okay, tell us who Barbara Jordan is.
Barbara Jordan was a representative from Texas to the Congress. She was, and she gave, who was it? Bill Clinton's nominating speech at the Democratic Convention. She was an African-American woman, and she was on the Watergate committee. She was the most eloquent speaker I have ever heard. She could just just excite me so much. And she taught then law and history at the University of Texas. Not that I ever, had anything to do it, but I guess it was because when I was young and I saw her, I had never seen any woman talk like that.
Really? Nice. You didn't even hesitate.
No,
she
not
came
at all.
Right to you.
Yeah.
Okay. One word that describes the Exchange.
I'm going to comforting.
Comforting. Nice. You did say some people come just for the comfort.
Yes.
Now, does it get cold in the winter and hot in the summer? Or
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Now's the best time to spring.
Well, it used to be that the Exchange is closed in January and all because of the cold.
Right.
And then closed in the summer because we didn't have air conditioning, and it gets hot. But now we have units in all the rooms, and it's bearable. But I go in and I do the merchandising, the displays, and I work in there on Sundays, and they've turned the heat off, and it's cold.
Oh, gosh. And just think, that's how they used to live in it.
Yeah. Well, you should see this fireplace. I mean,
they got that roaring. I love a big fireplace.
Yeah,
I do. So now, as a thank you for being on the podcast, I always write a little jingle for each of my guests. So I wrote one for the Women's Exchange, Susan. So here's yours.
From hands that sew to hearts that care, 100 years of love we share, helping others find their way at the Sandhills Women's Exchange.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we close, I want to ask one final question. If the women who started this movement in the 1830s could walk into the Sandhills Women's Exchange, what do you think they would say?
Well, they know exactly where everything is. The only thing, they would be amazed at the cafe. That didn't come till the late 50s.
It's cool.
So they would look at that. But I don't know. I think they would be pleased it's still there.
Yes.
But after a little bit, I think they'd start making suggestions.
Yeah. They were strong women. They were doers. They were go-getters. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. You're probably absolutely right. They'd say, okay, wait, I think you need to move this over here.
That's right. They would.
That's funny, Susan. That's funny. So today, I invite you to imagine this. Imagine a community where women quietly build structures that outlast generations. Imagine that every handmade item carries history. Every purchase supports independence. Every century-old mission still has relevance today. We're so glad that you came on the podcast, Susan. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for asking me.
And as always, keep imagining more.
Imagine more stories that soar, business, life, and so much more. Laughs, lessons, and local delight. It's the podcast that feels just right. It's the Imagine More podcast.